right, y'all. You know who I am. You know what this is. I'm glad to get to do this when I didn't get a chance to do it with him last month. Had some come up last minute. It's been kind of crazy, and I've been trying to make sure I get all of these done and put them out so you all can see them and enjoy them. And I want to talk. We got a lot to talk about. I already know, and so let's get right into it. The homie Chris Lee, what's happening, sir?
Well, as you just let in with a lot.
How are you first and foremost? How are you first and foremost?
I'm doing fine. How about you? I think when you had to postpone our chat last time, you were going to an audition.
Yeah, dude, I've been having so many auditions, and it's the crazy thing about it is I've been getting them, and I always know the process. I'll get callbacks or avails, and now it's like with certain ones, it's like I'll go in and I'm like, I don't have I used to have this thing of I don't have a shot because I look at what they're looking for. Right. And I'm like, I'm the outlier, which, yes, you would think that would make me have a better shot, but sometimes it doesn't. So I'm not, I don't really trip on it as much. It doesn't frustrate me. I know the game by now. So, but yeah, a lot of those have been happening. And then stand-up has been just bananas now, which is what I'm grateful for. Is what I moved out here for. And so between that and now also I've been officiating weddings for a while. So, just doing so much.
Nice.
So,
yeah, but there's a lot between Black Adam, Black Panther.
Okay, let's start with Black Adam first of all. What were your thoughts? I think we kind of talked about it on Twitter, but what were your overall thoughts on it?
I gave the movie a 5, which is to me like
out of 5? 5 out of 5?
5 out of 10.
Okay.
5 out of 10. So it's to me, it's as forgettable as the best Transformers movie. It's fun to watch. But it's a Michael Bay movie in the way that it's fun to watch. The action's fine. Clearly, it's a little weird that they don't like Zack Snyder stuff because there's a lot of slow-mo that makes you think they're trying to do a Zack Snyder impression.
20% of this movie is there in slow motion. I'm like, why?
It's a Zack Snyder thing. It's just it is in. It's like someone was trying to reach for that, especially with the painted black scene.
I don't. My biggest problem with the movie is it's a Dwayne Johnson movie. Mm-hmm. And when I told somebody that, they was like, what's the problem with that? I'm like, the problem is he's the same person in every single movie.
Yep.
This is literally what I said. Also, it was literally what I said I did not want it to be. Luke Hobbs with superpowers. And that is exactly what this was.
Yeah, and the worst child actor I've seen in a long time.
I wanted that kid to die so bad.
I'm like, at least if he died, you'd have a reason to get pissed about something. And this movie would have worked so much better if Shazam was the villain. If Shazam was in the movie and you changed the plot because of how they factored in the wizards anyways. They put the wizards in the movie. So if the wizards had gone to Shazam and been like, yo, there's this guy that's misusing these powers and he's killing people
it's like, yo, this is the dude we told you. This is like when he goes to Billy, like have Jamon Hansu go to Billy. Remember when I first met you and I told you we chose the champion? Well, dude is back. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it makes sense to have such a simplistic view of what justice is. It makes no sense for Hawkman. None. In fact, in almost I'm not the biggest Hawkman fan. I like the Carter character, Carter Hall, like him being cursed and having to relive. Like that's the interesting stuff. The Hawkman that I've always known is one that always goes over the edge. Always. He can't get past his own arrogance.
Right. He's beyond egotistical. Here's the biggest issue I had with one of the biggest issues I had. And we all knew. I knew something was wrong with this movie, and I kept saying it when when Dwayne Johnson kept promoting the post-credit scene. That is not a good sign, number one. The problem is, yes, it was just added, but it takes away from the storyline because if Amanda Waller can call Superman this whole time, why do you need to call the JSA?
Also, why does Amanda Waller have a connection to the JSA at all?
Why does Amanda Waller have a connection to the JSA?
Why would she send the Suicide Squad?
That's another thing. She would send the Suicide Squad.
But we know as well, like Viola Davis was also a late addition. Aldous Hodge was talking about that in an interview. Like, for a long time, they didn't think, and then it was a reshoot, and they're like, oh, yeah, we have Viola Davis on the screen. And it's like, oh, okay.
but it don't make any sense.
It doesn't. It
It
doesn't.
don't make any sense. Again, the JSA is the very last people that Amanda Waller's going to even try to get in touch with.
Right. And I got to say, Aldous Hodge doesn't get enough credit for how he played Hawkman, because he definitely played Carter Hall with the old man arrogance.
Yes, he did. You wanted to see him get his ass beat.
And moved. Yep. And even with the way he would talk about Pierce Brosnan, about not caring about dying, you got to see like, okay, this is different than like, say, Tony Stark not being through that before, or being a flyboy, or being Cavalier. It's like, no, death is part of what he goes through.
But the thing is, the problem is they never really explain that, though.
That's the problem. You only see it because of how Aldous Hodge plays it. It's not written that way.
Right.
At all.
You don't know that. If you're a comic book fan, you know that, yes, Carter Hall has to be, he's reincarnated consistently. But you got to give, the only people you gave us backstory somewhat to was Cyclone in a sense, Dr. Fate in a sense, and even Atom Smasher in a sense, because it was never a real, like, okay, Cyclone has the nanobites. Dr. Helmet has a helmet. Dr. Fate has a helmet. We don't talk about how the helmet has a spirit that really don't want him to take this thing off.
Nope. It can't be any deeper than that, because if it is, then it's not focused on Black Adam, and they don't have time for whatever reason. But I was just watching that film, and this is before I saw Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. But I was just watching, I'm like, what would Ryan Coogler do with this? Like, how you could have grounded the Hawkman rivalry with Black Adam, because he's alive in those time periods.
Also,
grounded as a personal thing that Hawkman was just using.
Here's a big problem I have is two things they introduced in this movie that they never built off of. Number one, what's the point of Eternium?
That I have no idea.
Because this whole thing is about the crown is made of Eternium, so you can summon Sabak, whatever. But she has this Eternium pendant that we are told about in the beginning that means nothing, right?
Because it's not magic. So it doesn't mean anything.
Doesn't mean anything.
Then MacGuffin.
But we get to him because they're even Hawkman telling us his entire plane, everything about it is made out of nth metal. We just let that go. But it's made out of nth metal, but it gets destroyed. We don't even tell you what kind of metal it is. You're just supposed to, it's assumed that the audience knows. And it's like, no, that's not how this works.
Right.
It frustrated me so much with that.
Yeah. In a vacuum, it's fine. You can watch it. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen. It's also the worst superhero film of the year.
Bro, when I started seeing people talking about it was the best superhero movie in years, I was like, what the fuck? You know how people like to call me and other people Disney shills and Marvel shills and say that we're getting paid? That is some shit that I would say in that regard.
Well, and I'm more of a Snyder guy than you are. So,
yes.
I mean, it's like, you would think that this would kind of work in some, but Snyder wouldn't have made a movie that's just, the problem with Snyder things is he gets too fixated on too many themes, and you can't possibly do them across a single film. You can't establish Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman in one film.
No
one can do that. But at least he tried to explain things. This isn't even.
I will give you that. I will give you that. Yes, he definitely tried to explain things. In some instances, again, in the Snyder Cut, he over-explains shit.
He does, but okay, we get it with Aquaman. They think he's a god. You don't need to have the choir go for 15 minutes.
Oh my God, that is unnecessary.
But you at least applaud the fact that he is going for something that's at least something that isn't shallow. He's going for something. You may completely disagree with it,
right?
But he's definitely trying to say something different, and this had basically nothing to say.
Also, you can't look. This whole we want to keep doing anti-hero shit. It doesn't work with the character who is all look, the only he was the champion, yes, and then he went crazy and started killing people. He is not supposed to be held as this giant hero.
Also, a character can start as an anti-hero. It cannot stay that way. Otherwise, there's no character development. It has to go one way or the other.
Or the other. Yeah.
Right? Because even with Man of Steel, yes, his Superman isn't fully informed. And even with the Batman, right? It's not fully informed. It's not fully developed. He is kind of more of an anti-hero Batman. But he gets to a point in Batman v Superman where he realizes he's wrong.
Well, here's the thing. I'll go and I'll play devil's advocate with this. Venom, because Venom is an anti-hero. But Venom, the problem is that was a movie within itself that embraced the cheese.
Yeah.
It embraced the cheese. It embraced what it was. So, like, yeah, if it goes down the road where he actually encounters Peter now, he'll go, but it never mind, because it goes to what you just said. Now it goes the other way. Because once he encounters Peter, he's the villain.
Right. Because he wants to face the other version of himself or whatever. The Venom. That third one's gonna suck. I mean,
that third one gonna be abysmal.
The stuff Andy Serkis does outside of that, like Andy Serkis may have been the only thing that kind of saved Venom 2 as a director.
I was so disappointed in Woody Harrelson.
Yeah, that. But that's also how it was written.
No, I get it, but also it's like, one of the things with comic book movies, I always say there are certain things that are just little bitty things that are essential to characters if you're allowed to keep them with rights. Let me make sure I say that, because just like with Namor, he wasn't allowed to be called the Submariner because the Universal owns that.
Yeah.
So one thing about Carnage always says they are a perfect bond.
Right. They're symbiotic.
And it's not a we. They're literally symbiotic together. That was the big I can't tell you how much when I was in the theater watching it for that 90 minutes, how much that shit frustrated me more than anything, because that was always a thing. Venom and Eddie are always we. Carnage is, no, I'll do this. And then when she kept being like, when she started screaming, you heard them. And then when he told her, he was like, let this bitch scream again, I'm a killer. What? And here's the problem. In the comics, Cletus would let him.
Yeah.
Cletus would let him.
Yeah.
So it was, things like that. But when you go to Black Adam, okay, Adrian is supposed to eventually become Isis, which they're not going to make her Isis because the name of Isis, right? But you steered away from that. You make this him having a love interest, and you don't explain. He's supposed to give a fuck about the kid. The only reason he's supposed to care about her for a hot second, okay, you woke me up. You got me out my tomb. That's it. But nothing else leading to it. I wanted that kid to die.
The thing too is Jeff Johns was a producer on this. We're gonna say quotes because I don't think he did anything in this movie.
No, he didn't. Jeff didn't. No, I know for a fact he didn't.
What? Okay. Well, what was really funny is he wrote the episodes of Smallville that had a Hawkman in it. He wrote like 2 of them, and specifically everything was about the reincarnation. And I think he even wrote the one that had
in Legends.
No, it is still Smallville. It was the episode where Lois became Isis. She became Isis for like an amulet kind of thing.
Oh shit. Okay. I didn't I really was. I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't a big Smallville fan. So I didn't really follow along with it like everyone else did.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like there was so much hope for this movie, but I wouldn't even say, let me rephrase it. There wasn't hope for me, because when the first trailer dropped, I said, okay, it looked good. And then when he dropped the second one, I was like, nah, I don't trust this.
Yeah, I didn't mind either of the trailers. In fact, I was kind of looking forward to what Colette Serra was going to do, because I actually thought John Cruise wasn't great, but it was perfectly fine. Most of that was because of Emily Blunt. But I mean, it was a fun movie in the same way that Pirates of the Caribbean was. It's fun. It has good world building. I'm like, okay, give him another shot with something. And he just didn't, direction wise, it didn't feel unique. It didn't really build a world.
I would be a betting man and say Dwayne Johnson, because he was one of the executive producers on it,
Mhm.
put in way more input than he should have been allowed to.
Yep, and we see he's probably not going to have any input now.
I am so happy because there is no fucking way you cannot make a world revolve. You can make a world revolve around Dwayne Johnson. You can't make a world revolve around Black Adam. It doesn't work.
No,
It
I
makes
don't
no
even
sense.
think we'll get another Black Adam now. I think it was all done behind the Garcia's back, the whole Zaslav, all that, especially with Peter Safran, because Dwayne Johnson does not like Peter Safran movies. Because Peter Safran's main thing is being the producer of Shazam.
Well, so the thing was, he tried to get it with Hamada them. So he went, Zaslav wasn't there yet. He went to DeLuca them and the heads of it and told him, look, you want me, I need Cavill. So that's how he got Cavill, because they was like, no.
And then Zaslav went and got Gunn.
And he was like, oh, you think this is what's going to happen? We're going to let him make this universe.
Mm-hmm.
We're finna and here's the thing. Some people are mad. They're like, oh, we're finna get dick jokes and blah, blah, blah. What the fuck do you think you've been getting?
Well, you're not going to get. James Gunn can do far more than just that.
Of course he can.
Oh,
of course he can.
Watch Peacemaker. Yes, there's dick jokes in it, but it's dark as hell. The horror stuff bleeds through really well.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we'll see who's going to do Superman. That's the first thing I want to see. I actually hope he writes that film, but doesn't direct it.
I can see him doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I can see him doing it. I can see Gunn writing Man of Steel and calling it Man of Steel too.
Yeah.
Because that was the thing I kept telling everybody. I was like, y'all finna be pissed. Because everybody was like, Henry Cavill's back. We're getting the Snyderverse. I was like, y'all gonna be pissed when you realize I knew. So I had knew before it was announced. I knew Safran was getting it. I didn't know Gunn was getting it. I knew Safran was the dude because they were like, he's been producing the top movies. So right. Safran, but I had no idea. And I've been talking to people that work in Warner Brothers that have worked with DC. No, it was like a shock to a lot of people that was Gunn.
Well, the only thing with the James Gunn thing is, I think it would be kind of crazy if you could find a way for him to write the Zack Snyder Superman film. Like, also, if they were aiming for 2024, that'd be almost 20 years since they worked together on the Zombie of the Dawn of the Dead remake, where James Gunn wrote it. And I think that would just be fun. I don't think that's happening.
Here's the thing. Cavill don't want to work with Snyder because Cavill doesn't like the way Snyder does Superman. Because Snyder doesn't like Superman. Snyder only did Superman to get to Batman. Snyder doesn't like Superman as a character. So Henry Cavill, one of the reasons also, besides that he was like, when they were trying to get him to be the actual cameo for Shazam, they were like, he has to be paid his rate. Warner Brothers was like, no. But also, him and Danny Garcia wanted creative control of Superman because they didn't like what Snyder was doing. And Warner was like, hell no. And they were like, okay, bet. Guess what we're not going to do? We're not re-signing this contract. And he was gone.
Okay.
And
yeah,
so...
we'll see on that. Yeah. We'll see who's going to get that role. It's interesting.
It'll probably be somebody you won't expect.
Yeah, it probably won't be. Yeah. You can talk to Spielberg if you want to. Spielberg ain't directing it.
It would not surprise me if Spielberg and Scorsese, before they die. No, Scorsese may die on his heel, but I can see Spielberg doing some type of superhero thing. So it may not be Marvel or DC, but he gonna do something.
It'd be funny if he did Invincible, just to miss for everybody, since they're gonna try and do a live action version of that.
So that's still happening, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Because like my only thing is,
I don't think you need to.
You don't need to.
Good, just make a theatrical movie out of that.
You don't need a live. Look, if a live action would have probably worked if we hadn't seen what Amazon gave us, right? Yeah. But here's the thing, too. You can't always take cult classic comic books or niche comic books and turn them into projects. When Netflix gave Mark Millar that whole fucking deal, and then he did Jupiter's Legacy.
None of his stuff works.
What was it? Jupiter's Legacy. What else did he have? Oh, didn't he have Thunder Force? Was that him or
That was him.
that shit was him? Yep, he had Thunder Force with
projects, and then they were done.
They were like, no,
it doesn't work.
They were like, no, this shit, because Thunder Force. I was so mad when I was realizing how bad Thunder Force was, and then I'm watching Jupiter's Legacy, and I'm like, all right, wait, we gonna literally keep going back and forth the whole thing? Oh, y'all fucked up and did the whole series the first season.
Yep. So you know nowhere to go. So there's no reason to renew you. Thanks.
Well, not even that. Is you can't be trusted to sit there and make the story up on the spot.
Yeah.
That's why Naomi had potential, but because first of all, Naomi should have never been done yet.
It also shouldn't be done on the CW.
That's another thing. You get Naomi on
BBC. You put on if you put that show after Abbott Elementary.
Yes, it is a hit.
Yep.
It is a hit. It's a guarantee. If you put Naomi right after Abbott Elementary, it's a guaranteed hit.
Because from a demographic perspective, ABC, because of How to Get Away with Murder and all that stuff, is a place where you can go and watch shows that hit that. Versus Fox went country and whatever they're doing.
That's why, ABC, even though it's ABC Family, is Freeform. That's why Cloak and Dagger had a chance.
I love Cloak and Dagger. I think you talked about it on a Mad Titan podcast.
Yeah, I love Cloak and Dagger had a chance. And I fucked with Cloak and Dagger heavily because at first I was like, all right, let's see how they do it. And the way they made their stories of how they were intertwined, it worked.
That is an example, though, of a show that should have been on streaming and bingeable because of how they told each of those stories. They're all interconnected. That one doesn't work week to week as well.
Yeah, that one you need everything. You need everything. But I think that's the problem. There's a lot of these shows that it's a conflict for they're trying to you have these executives trying to figure out what would we give at one time or what do we do, episode by episode. Remember, at first, The Boys, they gave us, I think the first season, they gave us everything.
Yes.
The very first season. The first season, they gave us everything.
Amazon, they gave a big chunk of it. I think they gave half of it. Because Amazon everything. I think
but then you had to be built up. Then they realized because again, it was building, right?
Right.
WandaVision changed the game for a lot of things because everybody was dropping remember, Netflix was dropping whole fucking seasons out the gate.
They still kind of are with the 1A, 1B thing, but even
you're
going to revisit that now, though, with advertising, too.
Oh, we're going to have to.
You should do that. You need to do week to week. If you did that with Sandman is still one of the best shows of the year, no doubt about it. It's fantastic. But that buzz from it died instantly. Also didn't help that it was right before Game of Thrones premiered. But
yeah. I think you're gonna have it where certain shows are gonna be considered look, let's watch and look at this season. Is this a thing that people can wait a week for? Will it build up? Some of the Disney Plus Moon Knight could have worked as a binging thing. You could have dropped all of Moon Knight at once.
I think the big thing is to look at your episodes and see, are they self-contained stories? If you're last night's episode of Andor, for example, is straight up a setup for everything coming in the season finale. They should have released them as 2 parts in order to make them work, for instance. And some stuff with Moon Knight should have been. Moon Knight, did they release the first 2 episodes of Moon Knight?
They did the first 2.
Right. Could you imagine if they hadn't? Because that first episode doesn't go really anywhere.
No.
It goes nowhere.
No, it doesn't.
And that's
also, so I get why a lot of people were pissed off. Because again, this comes from the whole translating stories from books to page with the source material, et cetera, et cetera. I talk about it all the time. The problem was everybody's expectation of Moon Knight was only one thing. He's Marvel's version of Batman. And that was a problem. People kept saying that because that's what everybody expected. So I understand that's if you read Moon Knight, that's what you know. You know he's Marvel's version of Batman, but you also know he has hold on one second. This is the Laugh Factory.
Yeah, go ahead.
1 second. They keep switching my times on different shows at the Laugh Factory. I'm sorry. I was like, fuck. I knew it was something about one of my shows when the booker is calling me. He didn't email me. He calling me. I was like, what am I doing? So now I'm hosting the show on Saturday instead of just performing, which is like, fuck, whatever.
They gonna pay you the same?
It's a little bit more. It's actually more, which I'm fine with. I'll take the bump and pay on a Saturday night to host at the Laugh Factory. I won't complain. What were we just talking about? Oh yeah, different shows. So you got Moon Knight, and so Moon Knight is where, because everybody on the story, and you're trying to you needed to use that as you're using that as a vehicle to move a God story forward. Because that's why you brought in all the Egyptian gods, and it's like everybody's like, I don't get it. And I'm like, you got to remember, the gods and everything are a big part of this phase. Look at what the Eternals is. People may not have rocked with it, but again, a lot of this stuff always, as most shit in the MCU is, are just gigantic plot devices that we're stuck watching for between 2 to 6 hours.
Start to drop some of that though. A lot of stuff. It seems like based on the phase, the way they've announced films. Again, there's some that aren't that are unannounced. It seems like they're dropping a lot of that. Like Eternals 2 is nowhere to be found yet.
It wouldn't surprise. So I don't know if they'll be. See, here's the problem with Eternals. I know it wasn't what everybody wanted, myself included. I wanted something different, but the only benefit of the doubt I give Marvel Studios and Chloe Zhao is you were tasked with introducing 12 people.
Yeah.
12, not 12 just regular motherfuckers, 12 essential people going forward. 13, actually. I'm sorry, 13. Because the Eternals, Dane Whitman, and the Celestials.
Right.
You went more in depth with the Celestials with Eternals than you did when you introduced Ego to Living Planet and Guardians 2, which, by the way, was a switch over because he originally wasn't a Celestial.
Right.
You changed the story. So you get that, right? And so you got the gods and everything because that's what the Eternals were revered as gods. Icarus, of course, et cetera, et cetera. So when you go to Moon Knight, it's all about the gods. When you get in even Miss Marvel to an extent, it's about the gods.
More of a realistic religious kind of.
More of a realistic religious, aspect to it. And so all these things play themselves a certain way. Yeah. So it just varies. It just varies. It's all about, the story. And again, when it comes to these Disney Plus shows, Disney, once WandaVision did what WandaVision and Loki have made it, they will never make them bingeable.
Right.
Because they've set up event TV with those.
Yeah.
All of them may not fall in the same category, but those two did enough. People were like, oh shit, when it's midnight, I got to watch.
Same thing with Daredevil. When Daredevil comes out, that's got to be weekly.
Oh, it's 18 episodes. You can't drop 18 at one time.
No.
I want to know how they go.
Like it's going to be rated TVMA now.
Oh, for sure it is.
For a while, they weren't sure whether they were going to sugarcoat it. I think a lot of the stuff that Cox was talking about, how they're softening it a little bit, I don't think that's actually. I don't think he actually knew what the tone of the show.
Yeah, I don't think he had. He just was like.
I think he was thinking, well, it's Marvel, so maybe they'll go do that. And so
he probably just had to say he knew. If I'm not mistaken, if I was a guessing man again, Charlie Cox knew he had to just say shit based off of this is what people probably going to ask you now that you're in the MCU. This is how people are going to ask this. Try to keep it as vague as you can.
Yep.
Because now that you're in the MCU, but which it also, I don't know if I ever told you this, it frustrates the dog shit out of me when reporters, pundits, whoever, when they're getting the opportunities to interview these people, they are constantly trying to act like, oh, you gonna drop something on me that nobody else is gonna tell. You are never getting that out the MCU.
The things that have been announced or that he's on, just do that, because they're not going to answer anything.
They're not going to look. You're not. Everybody ain't gonna be Tom Holland,
right? If you have Tom Holland, then you're going to make him look like feel terrible after the fact, and you don't want to do that. He just doesn't know what he's doing, really.
When these discussions come up like about this, people will bring up Mark Ruffalo when they were doing Infinity War, and he was like, everybody dies. And it was like, everybody's like, oh, how, people like, why would he spoil that? I'm like, do you not know the fucking story?
Well, they don't. That was sort of the thing. But, I mean, it was fine.
Because the thing was for me, well, this is for me. I'm sorry. Let me not say for everybody. For me, it was, we know he has to snap. I was like, are they going to do it? Because if I'm like, I said, I was thinking, because I'm thinking about the Russos, what they've given us so far, right?
And up to now, most of the villains have come back. No one's died. Nothing of big consequence, except for Killmonger, had died. That was really the only villain that died, though. Loki come back. Clark Gregg was back. Joss Whedon, stupid shit.
So, it was all like that. But let's talk Wakanda Forever. What was your thoughts?
So I give that an 8.5. So it's great. It's usually the best of the MCU since No Way Home.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing is, I do think it's overstuffed with the Everett Ross. Does not need to be in this movie. I don't think he needed to be in the first one either, but that's a whole another thing.
I think so I've been saying this on every review I've done and everybody I've talked to. We remember the first Black Panther is a self-contained movie.
Yeah.
It's not until the post-credit scene it's an MCU movie. Within the larger MCU. It's a self-contained movie. This one, they had to move the MCU story forward now.
They did, but I think they did it enough with the Adam Schiff early scene where Ramonda walks in to let you know just enough that this is now the world thinks Wakanda's vulnerable.
Yes, I got you.
And I think that was enough. It was also crazy to see Richard Schiff in an MCU movie, but again,
bro, when she had them bring those mercenaries unmasked on the floor and was like, I'm gonna tell you now, you get one.
I love that. The French people too.
It was the French. And she's like, you get one, you do it again if you want.
And then I do think Riri Williams was great. I don't think she needed to be in the final battle at all.
I don't either.
I actually think they should have dropped her, kind of like how Peter was dropped off in Civil War. Like you served your role.
Yes.
This is getting too real now. You're
not a hero. You're not a hero
either. As Shuri kind of tells her, you can't keep the vibranium.
But I think that's smart.
Mm-hmm.
Because what it does,
she shouldn't have it. But I don't think she needed to be in that fight because it really wasn't her.
No,
fight.
she didn't need to be in that fight at all. I agree. I definitely agree. But it was that we need all the help we can get, and so I don't even. But to be honest, and I'm gonna say it, I don't know how much she helped the fight. Like, did she really?
She blasted a few people.
Because once the Midnight Angels come, you good.
Yeah. And then I think also too, just from an acting perspective, when she was in scenes with Lupita Nyong'o and Shuri, like Lupita Nyong'o really made those scenes pop, and she was just kind of there. But that's just Lupita Nyong'o being one of the best actresses.
That's just her being who she is as an actress.
I don't think enough credits get going to her for when she kind of steps in that second half.
Yes.
That was weird to me. I thought she channeled a lot of the Chadwick stuff.
When she says it, even when she said he was my T'Challa.
That, and then even with Shuri, when Shuri's starting to like fire back at her, like the calm. She's calm.
Yes.
He doesn't talk down to her. she also knows it's Killmonger because at one point when Shuri like pulls away and she's like, if you're doing this for vengeance, which means she knew that was Killmonger.
Mm-hmm.
She knew who it was. You could read it on Lupita's face. And then I love the post-credit scene is phenomenal. That
it was the best way. That's why they kept telling people we're not recasting him.
Oh, and then I don't know if you saw it, but you know that's the first boy that meets Ramunda. When Ramunda goes to Haiti.
When she first goes to Haiti?
That's the first boy that meets her. That takes her to her mom, to his mom.
Because it's his okay, he takes his grandmama
to
his mom. Okay.
Yeah, and Ramunda clearly knew before that because
but she was
going to tell Shuri.
Right, but like Lupita even tells her. She was like, yes, your mama knew.
But Ramunda that's what she was gonna tell Shuri. There's something you need to know about your brother. And
I think he has a son.
He's so calm. Because she knew that there was a future beyond whatever. I hope the Wakanda, whatever the series is going to be, I hope it's actually not in Wakanda. And my hope would be that it's a Nakia outside the borders, like how the vibranium being open is affecting the whole world. Unless
I think that's the thing too. This is so the beautiful thing now with them being multiple series, Wakanda's always referenced, or you might see a scene. But again, like you just said, the world is a thing now. Nakia's a spy.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow, so here's the best part about what's about to happen. I saw somebody was like, man, I don't want to have to wait 10, 15 years for a grown Black Panther. I said, you don't get what we're talking about. Somehow, some way, we got a lot of magic going on right now. They're going to grow him up real quick.
They can grow him up real quick. Sure, he can say it for a little while and pass it on.
But that's what's going to happen regardless.
I mean, they're outside of Wakanda now because Shuri can actually get outside the lab.
But that's what she's doing. That's why M'Baku's the king, so she can be.
I love that too, because that was my problem going in. Was okay. I didn't think about them splitting the role of Black Panther and Queen. So my issue was always going to be Shuri becoming Queen didn't feel right.
Right.
Like, leading didn't. So that was the only thing. But the way they did it actually worked phenomenally.
Another thing I tell everybody, they made Shuri earn the title.
They absolutely did. And they also made her active.
Yes.
And Okoye is talking in the lab. It's Shuri that goes, hey, where are we going? She's not hesitant about it. She's also
just there.
Staves off Namor from doing things sooner than he probably would have. You know,
you mean Mr. Fuck around and find out?
Mm-hmm.
Because Namor is Mr. Fuck around. Look, I'm telling you what Namor was the realist. Like, I'm telling you what I'm gonna do. You can fuck around and find out if I'm playing games. It would
happen sooner because Shuri knew someone was out there. As she tells him later, people were out there looking for me. So by delaying it long enough to go and see the city and things like that, she's also complimentary at certain points.
Yeah.
Like when she gets into that scene when they're in the underground cave and she points out the nice jewelry, which shows that she appreciates the culture, right? Mm-hmm. Then she shows her knowledge because she can talk about it intelligently.
But also it goes to what her mom was saying. Because remember, when Ramonda was like, you have to, the thing about the Black Panther, you have to become it. It's tradition and all those things. Remember, Shuri's all about no. It's about science and technology. And Ramonda's like, traditions keep us who we are. So you got Namor down in Tolakan telling her about the tradition and the culture. And it's resonating with her too, on top of stalling. You know what I'm saying? On top of stalling so somebody can find her. But she's hearing about these different things and she's seeing how they all go together. How vibranium has been part of his culture as much as it is her culture.
Also, it took 2 seconds to remind everybody that Killmonger is maybe a little bit lesser than Thanos. It ain't much. As a villain?
Yeah.
That cameo?
Yo, when all he had to say was, you're not like your brother. You're more like me and you don't realize it. So what you gonna do? And that was all he had to, what you gonna do? And just sat there like, that's scary. Like, because again, when you have the development of a character, you as a moviegoer watching and you report on film, you understand a character's arc. Shuri's arc went from, I am not as smart as I think. I couldn't save my brother. right? I'm the smartest person, one of the smartest people in the world. I couldn't save my brother. So now she is emotionally defeated. Then you go to, I don't want to burn my funeral clothes because it means officially my brother is gone.
Right.
Now this dude comes up out the water and telling your mama, y'all need to help me or I'm going to kill y'all too.
Yep.
And you like, well, I got to find out to make some tools to stop him. Then all this shit happens. You get kidnapped. You're trying to save Riri. You get kidnapped. Afterwards, you go home. Your mom gets killed in front of you, standing her ground. So you go through all these emotions to the point where you look at something that he gave you and realize, holy shit, the threads are made of vibranium. Everything that grew out of this ocean is from vibranium. So then you start to get confidence in yourself. And once you realize you can make what you were looking for, then you can take the one thing you want that took you a while to accept it.
Yep.
And that's her putting on the suit because she didn't think about, she would have gave it to Nakia before she took it herself.
Absolutely. But that's why I also like Nakia too, being like encouraging, because she could have taken it and said that that's for her son, right?
Yes.
But that's not who she is.
Nope. Even when she stole it in the first one, she stole a little piece of it that was left in the first one. Remember, she was giving it to M'Baku.
Mm-hmm.
And M'Baku, and that again,
M'Baku turned it down.
And I was just saying, character arcs. And M'Baku turns it down.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, no, I don't need this. Even though, we find out he's got T'Challa's body, but in that moment, he could be what he was almost trying to be earlier in the film. He would be king for sure. But he's like, nah. Let him have it. And people keep talking about character arcs. We see it. Now, don't get me wrong. The only thing that bringing in Val did was showed you how evil she can be.
I already knew enough from the experiences I've seen of her that she's not good at all.
But the only thing we saw that really showed her she
dialogue too, so that didn't help. But
say what now?
They gave her bad dialogue too, so
absolutely. But the thing is, when you show so her getting John Walker at the end of Falcon and Winter Soldier, it don't do much. It's just like, okay, I need you for something. You know what it's coming to.
Yeah.
When she gets Yelena, her telling Yelena, I know who's responsible for your sister's death. Knowing good and goddamn, it's Clint, but knowing it's not Clint in the way Yelena thinks.
But it's also the weird thing of like her being Ross's ex-wife is just weird. It doesn't really
that felt like that was forced again. I think I don't even think that's Kevin Feige. I think that's more of the other EP saying this has to happen because now she's that I'll do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Remember, she said, I've always wanted all the vibranium.
So when Black Panther 3 comes out, do you want to see Coogler direct it? And if not, who do you want to see direct it?
Oh, fuck. I knew you were going to
ask this question. I think he should pass it on. Maybe produce it as he does with every movie. Like he's still producing Creed 3, even though he's not directing. I think you should pass it on. I can't imagine how hard it was just doing this, by the way.
Here's the thing about that though. And I agree. I think he's gonna have to step aside because emotionally, I know he was broken doing this.
Yeah.
He was broken doing this. Like people don't get it. Him and Chadwick were not just workers. They were damn good friends.
Mm-hmm.
He lost one of his best friends. So like I said on the podcast and I said in the review, people don't understand. Just making a movie ain't just you write it and then you just film it.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much shit involved. I think, but the problem is, who do you? Yes, he should push it off for the third one. Stay on as producer. You can give notes, etc., etc. The problem is,
I have two suggestions.
Who?
Depending on how Creed 3, Michael B. Jordan.
Yes. Okay, that's my only one.
Movie, but he clearly understands. He stepped into that character and he was just Killmonger in like 2 seconds, and he understands the worldviews.
Yes,
and Coogler can work close enough with him to do it. The other would be like Barry Jenkins or someone like that. Barry Jenkins would be a good choice too, as someone that's directed an Oscar, Academy Award winning film
with the theme. And if I'm looking at the theme, I'm looking in my head the theme of Moon Knight, the way he shot it. the way he shot Moonlight, yeah, Barry Jenkins or Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah. To me, it'd be Michael B. Jordan. That'd be an easy, if he directs it as well as Creed 3 looks. To me, Creed 3 looks incredible.
So I think here's the thing. I think if I'm not mistaken, I've been playing, I'm a betting man this whole 101 with you.
Yeah.
And at this point, if I'm wrong, I'm broke. But so they are waiting. Marvel Studios is waiting to see what Creed 3 looks like.
That's what that's what I think it would be. And I think that would be the easiest way to pass it off. Ryan Coogler can even write the script.
Yeah, let him write it.
Pen it, but pass it off to someone else that knows the world.
And it's the only that's the number one, but it depends on what Creed, like the trailer looks amazing. We got that. We know that. But it's not about but see, the thing is too, this is how you know it'll definitely work, because just like with Creed, he knows the property, he knows what it is, he knows how it needs
characters, and he there's something about Ryan Coogler and Jordan working together that just brings out the best. Again, somehow, some way, sort of like a Chris Pratt effect, people forget how dang good Michael B. Jordan is, which defies all logic. Like, people don't think he's one of the best actors anymore. And I don't really get that. Yes, he's been in bad films.
That's what it is. But that's the problem. That's what it is. Because of the films he's been in, people are like, meh.
Yeah, but then he shows up in 2 seconds in a film with a good director. And it's like, oh, okay. Like, he should make money on these other films if he wants to make some money.
And you can here's another thing too. You can tell he was in Creed mode when he dropped in to do his film for that, because that motherfucker was massive.
He was a little slimmed down though, because I watched Black Panther the first Black Panther after Wakanda Forever.
Yeah.
Instead of seeing it before, just because I didn't think I could take the emotions of going from one to the other.
Yeah.
He was much bigger in Black Panther 1. Like, it was a different kind of cut. It was bulkier, bigger. Like, he was bigger than Chadwick. Like, just muscular and just.
But he was supposed to be.
Yeah, and he looked like a boxer.
He was, but that's what I'm saying. He was boxer built.
You know,
he was definitely boxer built. Yeah. I just think with this movie, yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think Michael B. Jordan is the person to take it, because he knows it. And then also, like I said, if you feel like that Shuri if you don't want Shuri to keep the mantle, you have so many options of magic now that you can age the son up.
Again, I know all the trouble behind the scenes. Well, Letitia Wright is one of the most talented actresses.
Yes,
I think you put up with the trouble. I don't. It's not enough. All these other people that are getting second chances, you're really gonna be like.
Let me say this: if Evangeline Lilly don't die in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, Letitia Wright can stay on as Shuri.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't get that at all, and I think it's very weird how a lot of reviewers go out of the way to praise the acting in the movie, but they don't talk about Letitia Wright
because they went in her.
She is so all over the second half of that movie. Like,
you can't. That's the thing. I get people wanted to, because people went in mad off the movie. And it was like, well, I don't like Shuri. You didn't know. It's not you don't like Shuri. You just don't like Letitia Wright. And so because you don't like her, you are not going to like anything she does regardless.
And I think, again, Vacation Status is whatever that is. She had a legit accident.
That's another thing. She fucked herself up seriously.
Yeah. And stayed on and found a way to keep doing the movie. You know,
and that's another thing. You can see there's certain
third act that I wonder if it was that third, something along that third act.
Oh, it's definitely in that third act. It's probably somewhere around. It's somewhere around the first fight on the ship it's between the ship and when she drops in. Yeah. You know, when she drops in Jabari land, because she has it. You got to remember, she really wasn't, from what we've seen in Black Panther 1, she wasn't really stunt as being thrown around. She would move around. She wasn't being really thrown and jumping and stuff like that. So her having to do those certain things changes everything. But again, for her to be willing to do that.
Yep.
Because there are some actors that are like, no, that's what you hire, a stunt.
And she is not big.
That's another thing. Letitia Wright is tiny, but my God, does she tower over Dominique Thorne?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, I didn't know Dominique Thorne was that small. Like,
And
I
I
knew
think
she was small
someone
from
else
watching
is
Judas and the
there.
Black Messiah. I knew she was small there, but I didn't know how small relative to Shuri I mean, just in general, when she was like the trailers, you never know if somebody's standing on something, somebody, different places,
Yeah.
height.
Yeah.
When you see in the movie, you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
So yeah. But I mean, like I said, I just think, we don't, that's another thing. The only thing we know of what Black Panther is doing next. The only thing we know is that there are planned D plus series. That's it.
Yeah.
That was another thing. People kept being like, well, what about we don't know when we were getting another Black Panther film anyway.
Right.
We were getting Disney Plus series next.
Yeah.
And you're not going to put the Black Panther himself or herself in the Disney Plus series.
And that's why I would keep it outside, because I think Wakanda should be treated like, especially that country.
Yes.
I think if you go there every episode for like 8-9 episodes, like, I think it kind of diminishes the special kind of thing. It would be like if you went to Talakano over and over again.
Like, the only way I say you do it, again, there has to be a threat. Like, here's what I think you can do. Yes, you can have Nakia be a spy dealing with the vibranium joint, like you said, right? Mm-hmm. The Dora, because they're always going to be in Wakanda, right? The Dora has to deal with a threat that's coming to Wakanda. Now, they're already on the edge and on alert because of what Namor and the Tolakan in there, because they can come out the water. But there's something else coming in trying to do that. So, because they've opened this door that mercenaries are trying to get into, yes, it was in the ocean, but this door is open of mercenaries trying to get vibranium now. So you can have that. And also you can finally add in, you can use that to play into the post-credit scene that was cut out, which is smart. Because it was Doom.
That's what I figured it was, but I didn't need it. I didn't.
But it was perfect. They didn't do it. It was perfect because, again, to have it end with T'Challa there, that is it.
That's
it. You don't take it away from it. Let that moment be.
Also, lets it last with how you started it. It was about Chadwick. It should end.
It should end about Chadwick.
Everything should end with that.
Yes. So before we get up out of here, because I got some stuff I got to do, let's get a little wrestling talk going.
Yeah.
What you thinking about WWE? I don't give a shit about AEW. I just think
we've been.
The company has about 2 years left.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in what they're going to do with the War Games. They pretty much already filled it out for the most part. Although I'm pretty sure on the women's one of those face women are going to turn, and it would be Alexa Bliss. But that would just be.
So I got a feeling either one. If Bliss doesn't turn, okay, maybe Bliss turns early, and it eliminates 2 spots.
No, I think it's before. Yeah, it would be before the
actual match.
Yeah. So there's clearly 2 spots,
and Sasha and Naomi take it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or you could do it where it's one of them show, or you could do it where it's either Sasha or Naomi in the match itself. Then one of them runs out to help win it for the other team.
No, you want the pop. You want the pop.
I agree.
You want the pop at the pay-per-view.
Thinking of a couple options that you could do.
No, I get what you're saying, but the pop of y'all need 2, because all you need to keep hearing is y'all need 2 people, and everybody knows who those 2 people gonna be. Because it would kill, you would kill any momentum that match would have if the scenario plays out. Bliss turns and takes out Asuka, or takes out who's the 5th? Did they get it?
The babyface side is Mia Yim now.
Mia Yim.
Because
Mia Yim not staying in this. No, Mia Yim will stay. So you have Bliss take out Asuka, right?
Yep. Or you could have Asuka turn, because Asuka's never been a heel.
Or Asuka, the 2 of them take each other out. They're going by proxy.
Yes.
Because they don't fit in this no matter what.
They don't.
They don't fit. So the 2 of them go. I'm sorry?
I just think it'd be cool if Asuka went, just because you could team her with Io Sky, and they could be the tag team. And you could let the 2 Aussies tag together. If you did that, because you could,
And Rhea Ripley and Dakota Kai?
Yeah.
Look, Rhea Ripley right now. Look, I didn't think this would be a thing, but Rhea Ripley works perfectly right now over in Judgment Day.
But it would be really cool if you're doing a modern day China kind of thing to have her
What
be
we
in
doing with her?
be in two awesome teams. Like she could be Judgment Day and in this team. Like she's
Ah.
both of them.
Well, I
think
yeah,
it's cool if kind of like how Judgment Day turned, eventually Rhea Ripley leads them to turn on Bayley, and they cut Bayley out and make eventually Bayley's got to be a babyface at some point again.
does she?
I don't think I don't think she works as a heel. I don't think what she's doing as a speaker for that group works. I think they need a heavy, and she's not a great heavy.
Bayley doesn't work as a speaker for a group.
What?
Bayley doesn't work as a speaker for a group.
That's what I mean. But Rhea
She works as a speaker for herself.
Has pretty much become that for Judgment Day. Like Balor's technically in charge, but it's Rhea Ripley that's pretty much calling the shots. It's her that's, controlled, dominated, Dominic.
Which, again, this has been the best shit he's done.
It is, yeah.
Actually, I've been so sending that man down. I've been so on to send Dominic down to NXT train forever, and now I'm like, oh, he finally.
Some balls about him. He probably loved watching Eddie work, based on his size too, the way he's taller. Like, she probably liked watching that a lot and learned a lot from his uncle and
I wouldn't be surprised.
Storyline, adopted father, whatever that thing was.
It wouldn't surprise me at all. It would not surprise me.
But that's interesting. It's so funny though, because they threw Mustafa Ali into this World Cup tournament thing on SmackDown because
what is the point of it?
And then they just had him get destroyed by Lashley. It was like, I don't get. I
like it because again, if it leads to, who's got the U.S. title is on Seth Rollins. Never mind.
Yeah, and they're gonna probably have him drop it at Theory because they finally got the anchor that was the Money Bank off Theory and fixed it.
I saw that, and nobody thought about that though. Triple H is a genius because everybody kept thinking
he couldn't cash in and win successfully. Like no matter who, like if he had challenged Roman, he would he'd get destroyed by Roman. So it had to be one of the lower titles, and even then he wouldn't win. So you had to do it sooner rather than later. And just package him. And they did that.
So this also opens the door because remember, Triple H has just said now, Money in the Bank is just now a match.
Which is what it should have always been.
Should have always been a fucking match.
Which he's doing too. Get rid of like Hell in a Cell pay-per-views and all that stuff. It's like, no, these are match types.
It's not a whole pay-per-view.
Them if it's a storyline. So stop pigeonholing it.
Yeah, because you can't put every match on a pay-per-view or premium live event.
Although he kind of did that with War Games, but of announcing it way ahead of time and then finding two matches that would fit that, but it still works. It's just
it's good because because I think, but the thing is, there's no Regal to make that announcement because that's what everybody's so now used to. When they would hear Regal say it at NXT, go War Games, like hearing that, but. To say
War Pigs as the song, which is an anti-war song, but
dog, I love it. I was crying laughing with that one too.
What are we doing?
Is this where the Bloodline whooped the dog shit out of Sammy?
It depends. If Kevin Owens is in the match, because Kevin Owens is injured and he's supposed to be supposedly the fifth man, but it depends on what his knee thing is. Because I think if Kevin Owens wins that match, like imagine if it's Kevin Owens that pins Sammy
in the final two.
Yeah. Then yes, that would be how I would do it.
Ooh.
That's how I would do it.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Because then that would give them reason to turn, or because Kevin Owens could rub it in on the mic. See, I wouldn't do it on Survivor Series. I would do it the SmackDown after, no matter what. So I'd let the loss stink in, and then on SmackDown, They do the thing. Kevin Owens rubs it in the wounds a little bit that he pinned them. It sows the seeds, kind of like it was a deception.
So do you have Sammy come out? So if you're let's say this before we get up out of here. Let's say you're booker and writer, right? So is the way you're writing this angle, whatever team, Brawling Brutes, Drew McIntyre and Kevin Owens, that team, yes, we have the sole survivor being Kevin Owens, right? Yeah. Friday night on SmackDown, Kevin Owens comes out and brags about how he, his team beat the Bloodline, blah, blah, blah. More specifically, he beat his former best friend. Do you have, because this is what I would do, do you have Sammy come out first to try to defend the honor of the Bloodline?
Yeah.
Or is that what you, so I want to hear what you do.
Yeah, 100%. So how I would do it in the match, first and foremost, is Sami Zayn kicks Roman Reigns with the Helluva kick.
Okay. Causes Roman to get eliminated.
That knocks Roman out. And then Kevin Owens, someone else pins Sammy. So it's not, someone else would pin Sammy in the match, and then he stuns Roman and then pins Roman.
Okay.
It also sets up a title match for Kevin Owens against Roman Reigns.
And it doesn't shrink Roman. It doesn't diminish Roman.
No, he still has the title.
Yeah.
It was his own. It was self-inflicted, Helluva kick. But then that automatically sows in the distrust of, oh, did he do that on purpose to give his former friend, a shot?
Right.
And then next night on SmackDown, Sammy promises that it isn't. And then Kevin Owens comes out for the promo, rubs the salt in the wounds, like even shows a replay of it, kind of like how they've always done.
Yeah.
And then says, hey, I'm going to let you guys sort this out. Kind of like how Logan Paul did it. Hey, you guys sort this out. Your family, you'll figure it out. And then when Sammy gets this shit knocked out of him. And
then Kevin Owens makes the save.
Yeah. No, he fails. He tries to make the save and gets beat down too.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like, he doesn't make the save. I mean, he goes in for the save.
Yeah. He tries to make the save and then gets beaten down.
Okay.
That's how I would do it.
With it. I like it. I fucks with it, man. I fucks with that. I love it.
Sometimes I have an idea. It doesn't always work. Sometimes I have an idea, like have Matt Riddle play bongos, and that's really stupid.
Boy, which by the way, you can tell who Triple H does not care for anymore.
But it's a Matt Riddle thing. I mean, he's very talented, but he's
a fuck up. He's a fuck up. He's a liability.
He is. You can't push him to a certain extent. He's a guy that should always be in tag teams. I mean, he needs Randy Orton as a role model. Think about that for a second.
Yeah, out of all fucking people that needed a role model, Keith Orton. Like I told somebody one time, I was like, yo, do y'all understand who Randy Orton was? Like, Randy Orton was out here shitting in bags, okay?
Go watch the Cody Rhodes one-on-one with Stone Cold. The story that he tells about Randy Orton ripping pipes off of like the bathrooms and stuff, and just let it get flooded. He would just pull the pipe off like the locker room bathrooms and stuff like that just to do it, because he's just so it was Randy. He had no one could touch him.
Listen, tell the people how they can find you and what you got going on.
You can follow me at Chris_Intersect on Instagram, Twitter. I'm the managing editor at theintersectionmedia.com. All things movies, TV.
The man is working and he watches a lot of stuff for you guys. Check it out, support it. Make sure you do that. Y'all know where I'm at. All right. So I will holler at y'all for the next one. Stay tuned to that one when it comes out. Take care. I'm out.